And we get into the big stories right here on the AM show. Thank you for staying. Now, in the first one we're addressing, VALCO non-managerial staff are accusing their chief executive officer, Danny Champong, of sabotaging their operations, and they want him, together with all other retiree assistants of his, sacked. The workers say the CEO's non-performance has led to the outfit's stagnation in terms of output. Oh, and there's a catch. A recent development in terms of shutting down the plant, one that they say is unheard of, never happened before. But let's get some details from some of those joining us this morning. We have Courage Nunekbeku. He's an executive member with the VALCO Labor Union. We also have John Tega, a former vice chair of the Labor Union at VALCO, and Edgar Tete, who is the Labor Union's current chairman at VALCO. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. I think there's one person I'm not hearing. You may have to unmute and let us hear you. So whom do I have?
Yes,
do I have Edgar?
Yes, you have Edgar.
All right. So I see Edgar. I see Courage.
Yes, Edgar is here. Okay.
And John, I see you in the background as well. All right. So I'll start with Edgar. Just paint a picture for us about what exactly triggered this demonstration some 2 days ago at VALCO. What exactly happened and what the status is of VALCO currently.
Okay, good morning to you and good morning to your cherished viewers. Yes, what triggered this agitation is our wage opener issue.
Hello, Mr. Tete, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, and the fact is, those at the helm of affairs are all retirees. And the union see it that they are not being sensitive to our plight. So if you are the one in charge of issues and you are not being sensitive to the plight of the workers, who to us is the greatest asset you have, then we see that you have no business being there. Because if you can't pay attention or you can't embrace the hardships the workers are going through and so improve upon their welfare, then we think you don't have any business being in VALCO. We know VALCO is a strategic plant. VALCO is a key area that the economy can be improved by it. So if we have leaders who seems to be or who seems not to be sensitive to the plight of workers, then we think they have to leave.
All right, so tell me, why exactly do you think your CEO, Danny Champong, together with his deputies, are not being sensitive to your plight?
We understand he gave the instructions for the plant to be shut down. That is the information we gathered.
Where did you get this information from?
We got the information from one of the managers who was around at the time.
Okay, which specific manager was this, if you can just clarify for us?
He was in charge of carbon operations.
Okay, so you gathered that an attempt had been made or a call had been made, a request put forward to shut down the plant.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Is this something that happens from time to time? Is this something that happens often, shutting down the plant?
No, please, because the cost involved in shutting it down when you are about to bring it back, it's not a joke. It is not a joke.
Right. We'll get into the cost factor. Just hold for me. Let me also bring in Courage Nunekbeku. You're one of the technical people at VALCO. Tell me, so On day one, you were demonstrating, but you were working. Tell me about how you were able to do that. And then from the technical angle, what it means shutting down the plant. Courage.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's rather unfortunate that we have gotten to this point. You know, usually when we demonstrate, we prevent our people from working as a tool for them to know that we are serious about our demands. But this time around, we realize that no, the people who are causing the problem must rather be stopped from continuing to do what they are doing rather than letting the plant suffer. So strategically, we deploy our people. And fortunately for us, I think the police were there, the managers themselves were there, the BNI was also there. In fact, all the people who matter, they were there. So nobody can say that we were not working on the set day. So as operations were ongoing, we were also putting across our frustrations, telling them that no, we cannot allow our future, which is VALCO, to go down the drain because of you people. Because you people do not have any stake in the company as we speak. I said it's unfortunate because this decision in particular has never happened in the history of the company. Even if you want to shut down, there are processes that you need to go through before shutting down. You just shut down without caring about the consequences. You know, the CEO and whoever or the people backing them have made a big mistake because one, the CEO himself by his posture thinks that he's untouchable. He's so powerful that he can take any other decision with the backing of whoever. Maybe the president is backing him, which I doubt.
Well, we cannot substantiate that, so maybe you can just stay away from that.
I'm saying that I doubt if the president will be supporting the CEO to take such a decision. You know, on Sunday morning, we got the intel that there was a meeting, a 1 hour meeting involving members of the board and the top management. I'm very sure they took this decision at that particular meeting. And even before then, one of the retired
Right. Courage, we'll get back to you. Courage Nunekbeku is an executive member as well. I also see that we're trying to connect with John Tega, who is a former vice chair. But let me come back to you, Edgar. So what are some of the underlying issues? You've spoken about your CEO, and you've also made mention of the fact that some of these retirees are at post and they are not performing. Let's look at the age factor, since you mentioned that they are retirees. How old are we looking at? How long have they been at post? I know your CEO has been there since 2014. What is the status of that?
It is true. They are all above 60. The age range is 64 to 67.
How old is your CEO? How old is his deputy?
The CEO is 67 and the deputy is 66.
No, the deputy is 60. Okay, yeah. You know, the latest deputy that was brought on board, Dr. Yayabua, he is 68 years. So they are almost nearing their 70s.
Okay. So this is not about ageism, but it's also to let everyone know that they have hit retirement and they've been brought back. One for 7 years, another one for what? 6 years. We'll get back to the VALCO staff to, give us some more scoop on this situation. But let me quickly bring in Yadom Boakye-Amponsah, who is a labor consultant. Mr. Boakye-Amponsah, a very good morning to you, sir. It's good to have you. Now, this is an interesting development because 2 days ago, we heard of VALCO staff demonstrating on the premises of the company. Now, they were demonstrating but working at the same time because they run a shift system. But the crux of the matter is that, one, they feel the retirees who don't stand to lose anything are not giving their best. They are not performing at optimal levels for VALCO. And that, secondly, they are not, the conditions of service for the workers are not in the right state. So one crucial thing you have to take note of, all activities of VALCO are in dollars. So they purchase in dollars, they sell the product in dollars as well. And the pay structure is also in dollars from top management to non-managerial staff. However, the complaint is that since the dollar rose, let's say if someone is supposed to be taking $300 while you give them the CD equivalent, they expect that as the dollar rises or appreciates, they would get equivalents in there as well. There's a cocktail of matters, but let's focus on that for now. How do you react to that as a labor consultant?
The name is Ben, I guess.
Benjamin, yes.
Benjamin. Good morning, and good morning to your cherished listeners. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to comment on this matter. Actually, if it's an indexed environment, then there should be an interbank rate which should be very dynamic and should be moving with the rate on the market. And that is the rate that has to be applied in giving them the CD. So, for instance, if 2 months ago the CD was the CD was 10 CDs to the dollar, and you are paying somebody $300, then certainly his salary is $3,000. If it moves to 13 CDs, then it has to be commensurate. It has to move from $3,000 to, the 13 CDs equivalent. So if you convert 300 by 13 CDs, then you are looking at 3,900. That should be his or her salary for the month in which the interbank rate is 13 CDs. So if they are paying them a stable amount of using a particular rate all the time, then it is not right. It is not right. Then the workers are being shortchanged.
All right. So you agree then with the workers that owing to the fluidity of the situation, once there's an appreciation, of course, if there's a depreciation as well, they will take the hit. But once the dollar appreciates, they should be paid the equivalent. You agree with them on that? Yes.
Actually, that is the spirit underpinning the use of the indexation. Okay? The theory is that if you pay the person in cedi, at the end of the year, you have to use the inflationary rate to adjust the salary. Okay? And then you have to top it up as well. But if you index it, then on a month-to-month basis, the employees are able to take advantage of the depreciation of the cedi and then the appreciation of the dollar. Okay, so that they don't lose the market value of their salaries too much. And it also helps in determining wage adjustments at the end of the year, because in most cases the workers would have been taken care of in terms of the strength of the dollar. So when you are adjusting, you don't give him 30% increment. You give him just the gravy that comes on top.
So on the back of that, development, just a quick question. If an agreement is arrived at and for the workers to be paid these sums of money based on the dollar equivalent, can it be retrospective then? Since this was actually per their conditions of service and per what I have gathered, that is the situation. It has been indexed as such. Does that then mean that it can be retrospective? We can go back to when the dollar started appreciating and top up for them up to this point. Is that logical?
Certainly. If I am advising the company, that is the kind of advice I will give. Because, in principle, you shortchange your employee, and you don't do that. So you have to go back and correct the wrong, flatten the sheet for everybody.
Right.
So when the dollar started, increasing in strength against the cedi, you go back, and whatever you've done wrong, you write it up, and that's it.
Another question, it's not about ageism, because no matter how old a person is, if he or she is sharp, I know some very old people who are very fine at what they do, but they have a concern to do with a number of retirees that are heading VALCO, a critical national asset. And they talk about their CEO, who is 67, the current deputy, who is 66. So this means that the CEO is 7 years off the retirement grade. The deputy is 6 years off the retirement grade. And a host of others who are in the same bracket who are leading this crucial state asset. And they say, that is what the workers purport. They say, because these people have practically achieved everything they get, and because of the perks, so to speak, of course, we've not been able to engage them. It's been unfruitful reaching out to them. They are taking certain things for granted. But it is interesting when it comes to the benefits, because some of those, they tell me, from fuel allowances to others, are staggering. And the non-managerial staff are not getting this. That is one of their lamentations. How do you react to that? Is it in terms of public policy, labor consultancy, retaining such people for such a long time? The CEO, Danny Champong, has been there since 2014. Is that apt?
Since 2014.
Since 2014.
Okay, so how was he appointed in the first place? And what kind of contract was given to him? Okay, because if you are appointing someone who is already 60 years, I don't expect you to give him a 4-year contract. Okay? What you do is to give him about a 3-year contract and expect that he will train someone to work in his stead so that he can walk away. Okay, so I don't know what kind of, if I have details of the contract given him and how he was recruited, then I can be in a position to comment on this properly.
Just hold for me.
I have a problem. I have a problem with the way we recruit people into certain public institutions. Right. Okay. I mean, we have the Public Service Commission there. Their role is to, recruit or facilitate recruitment of people into such institutions. Were these guys recruited through that process, or did the company, on its own strength, recruited them, or the government in power, foisted somebody on them? I mean, there are issues I need to understand. But I personally have a problem with the way we recruit people into public services.
And those are very valid concerns you're bringing up. But let me bring in the president, the chairman of their local union as well, to find out whether he can give us any further clarity. Edgar, if you can hear me, do you know how? I mean, we know Danny Champong came in 2014, but do you have any further details about what led to his appointment and how he stayed on for so long?
Yes.
All right, it appears the connection is not good at all. Maybe we'll just try reaching them by phone so we can get further clarity on some of these issues, because the network obviously isn't helping much. Do we have Courage? Is Courage still with us? Courage, Nunek Meku, if you can hear me. Can you?
Yeah, Benjamin, I'm here.
Great. I'm sure you know about how Danny Champong came to be CEO of the entity. Can you give us at least some clarity for Mr. Amponsa to give us further details?
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Danny Champong took over from the then Dr. Charles Mensah. That's in 2014 as the CEO. So when Dr. Charles Mensah left, he took over. And in VALCO, when you go on retirement, automatically your badge number also changes. But as we speak, Dan Champong's number 0110001 has not changed. And in fact, we were not privy to the kind of appointment that the current president gave him, but he says the president has asked him to continue to be on the job as our CEO, because according to our brochure that catalog all those that went on pension at that time, Dan Champong's name was not part of it. That means that as we speak, he still considers himself as a regular worker, because if his badge number has changed to be 080, they would have considered him as a contractor. So for now, he says the president has asked him to stay on as our chief executive officer.
I see. Mr. Boakye-Amponsah, does that give you any further clarity on how things have, culminated in what we're seeing?
It means his appointment came directly from the president. But may I ask whether VALCO still has a valid board?
I have heard of the VALCO board,
this is a matter that should be channeled through. You see, that we are doing a whole lot of things wrong, because even if the president has proposed it, I expect that the board will ratify his appointment. Okay, once all the statutory requirements have been met. Okay, so that he will be responsible to the board, so that the board can supervise his work. But if he's been asked by the president to stay on, I'm sure the board can't even touch it. You see, these are the issues that we need to change. I mean, the corporate world all over, is governed by structures, policies, and principles. Okay? So we can't do things anyhow and expect to have any different results. Okay? So I am of the view that if the man has overstayed his welcome, no matter how good he is, if he's not been able to train other people to move into that kind of capacity, then he is, to put it the least, then he is inefficient. Because you cannot claim that you are the only one who can do this job.
Let me ask you this quick question. Is it absurd? Is it unheard of for someone 7 years after retirement to still be at post? Is it unheard of?
No, it isn't. It isn't. There are certain situations where, due to the special skill of the person, maybe, and that is what I'm saying, but there's a matter of timing in there. Somebody who is 66 is already 67, is already tired. Okay, so if you hire him as a consultant or a contractor for a short while to help turn the tide or something, it is not wrong.
Right.
But he cannot continue to be a fully functional employee. Okay, as he's saying, he's still a fully functional employee. He's not even a contractor. It's a problem.
So obviously, there are lots of policy issues, labor issues that are not being, got right. You've agreed with the workers on the standpoint of getting the equivalence when it comes to their dollar-rated pay. They also speak about other perks that they do not get. But there's also a crucial issue. It has to do with the shutting down of the plant. If you were listening earlier, they intimated that it's never happened before. From what they share, there was a directive which one one of the leaders of that institution, I'm just avoiding mentioning the name, confirmed came from the CEO. And the directive was not complied with by in-house staff, but Gridco was called upon, and there was a selective shutdown of the plant. In other words, auxiliary functions of the plant, lighting, air conditioning, and all of that could still operate. But the plant, which has the rectifier, which contains the cells, and now, mind you, there are 127 of these cells that are operational. Each one that goes down would require $100,000 to bring it back to life, more than $100,000. So if you look at the 127 cells that were shut down 2 days ago, which are now supposedly dead, it would cost the state $12.7 million to resuscitate them, bring them back to life. On the other hand, what the workers are asking for, pay us equivalents, would amount to about $1 million. What does this constitute? Does it constitute financial loss to the state? How do we address that issue?
I'm sure for this one, before you can make any listen out of it, you need to have the full details. As to why a plant of that nature will be shut when it has no problem, I don't understand. Because these things, you see, when you run a plant like that, you run it from the beginning to the end, and at each point, you have a cost attached to it. Okay? And the efficiency of the business is actually a denominator of the cost.
Right.
So if your cost is efficient, then the business is actually making profit. If your cost is you are shutting down things and then putting them back at all times and running into debt and that kind of thing, then the business might as well not be there at all. Okay. But since we don't have the full story, it's very difficult. But I expect that if he actually ordered that the plant be shut, then he should have a reason for doing that. And somebody, that's why I'm asking of the board. Somebody above him should be asking why he does that. Because if he has a board, then there should be a quarterly meeting, a quarterly report. Okay, first you have your monthly report and a quarterly report. Then there's a board meeting, possibly quarterly, to review the operations and how to make the operations more efficient. If they had a board, then certainly this matter would have to be cleared with the board before you can even shut it down. All right. So there are issues we need to know in order to be able to make.
Hold for me, Mr. Amponsa, just for further clarity as we get ready to wrap the conversation. Courage, if you can hear me, what do you know so far? What are the reasons or the reason for which the plant was shut down or the order was given? Can you share with us?
Okay, thank you very much. As I said earlier, the shutting down of the plant is a well-orchestrated plan because they have been using it to threaten the workers.
When you say they, whom are you referring to?
Yes, I mean the Deputy Chief Executive Officer in charge of operations by name Mr. George Dodd. That if we don't shut up on your demands, we are going to shut down the plant and sack you and recall those that we feel we can work with. And CEO is aware of this. So when I said they, I mean he, George Dodd, together with the CEO, and I'm sure at this point the board chairman, Dr. Henry Benya, should be added to it because they couldn't have implemented this threat if the board were not to be in the know.
So you're insinuating that this is some sort of strategy, shut down the plant and get rid of maybe loud workers who are creating a stir.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, sir.
So you're also confirming, was it then the deputy CEO who ordered the shutdown or the CEO himself, Daniel Echampo?
The CEO himself, he gave this order. The CEO himself. But as I said, the threat of shutting down the plant has been coming from the lips of the DCO long before now. So it will be a collusion between him and CEO. And as I said, the board chairman is also an accomplice because they couldn't have carried out this threat without his collaboration.
All right. Before I go back to Mr. Amponsa, I just want you to explain to us, what would it take, even if we had the $12.7 million ready to resuscitate the cells, the 127, what else will it take to bring them back to life? Hello, Courage?
Hello?
Yes, did you get the question?
No, please.
So I was just asking, before I go back to Mr. Amponsa, I want to find out, the 127 cells that will cost us more than 12.7 million to bring back. Apart from that, what will it take in terms of manpower and others to bring them back into working condition?
Yeah, it's very difficult to revive a dead cell. And aside the money, that is if the money is even there, workers have to spend a lot of their energy, run 12-hour shifts, constantly before they could even bring one of the cells back. So the materials that they are going to use, which has already been considered as part of the cost, is also one thing. Sometimes it's difficult getting the materials because the type of technology that we use now is actually faded out. So we need to go back to those manufacturers to customize it for us. So getting those people who are almost out of business is very, very, very difficult. So it goes beyond the cost, the financial cost, and other things. So at least 6 months will have to go down the drain if we have to revive all the 127 months. And I think at this point, Dana Champon and his group of retirees have put the company into a very big mess, which we plead that they must be held responsible.
So, Courage, thank you for that point you made. Mr. Amponsan, just to wrap the conversation. Courage, thank you for that point. At least we've got the thrust of what you're saying. Mr. Amponsan, so based on what he has just said, what is your reaction any different? He is alleging that, and this is an allegation, that, well, first of all, that the CEO ordered the shutdown and that the DCEO, the deputy CEO, has been threatening this, and he is suggesting that this couldn't have been done without the approval of the board chairman. So he is suggesting they are in cahoots and this was done. How do you react, finally, to conclude the conversation?
So being a union, this coming person, I won't put much value on it at this point because there's a one-sided story.
Right.
I prefer that we have a reaction from management as well, because I can't fathom how a business, a plant which is running without any difficulty will be shut down just like that, only to get rid of a few people. No, nobody does that. If you want to get rid of an employee, what is it? Even if you know that by doing so, you have to go and fight this thing out in court, most companies will take that route easily than to shut down a whole operation, to compromise the entire business. Okay, so I don't think, maybe you guys will have to go into it and find out what the actual problem is. But for me, I've been running plants for most of my life.
Right.
And I know that you won't just shut down a plant to get rid of one or two employees. Nobody does that. I mean, what is it? You go to court, you go to Labour Commission, go to court and fight it out. Even if
they have suggested, Mr. Amponsan, that there is some reapplication process involved when some of these things happen, and that through that, quite a number of them who are vocal members of the union, and these are quite a number of them, not just a handful. The plan is to get them off. But we have also read and heard in other quarters where the CEO has actually spoken and suggested that the workers were up to something on the day of the demonstration, for which reason the plant was shut down. But the point to be made is that regardless of whatever situation, the police, mind you, were there. And they found out that there was nothing mischievous happening. It was a peaceful demonstration per what we gather from the police as well. So it is a bit curious about why the plant eventually was shut down. But anyway,
you don't have to shut a plant down. A plant that uses rectifiers and cells, if you shut it down, you cannot just, it's not like switch on and switch off a light. The processes in bringing back this into full operation is normal. It's a random. You don't do that.
Right.
And I hope that maybe someone will have to answer to the good people of Ghana why this should happen.
We'll definitely get to the bottom of it, and where the buck stops, maybe heads will roll depending on what exactly transpired. But Mr. Amponsan, we're grateful from the labor angle for joining the conversation. We're also grateful to Courage Dunekbeku, an executive member of the union. Earlier, we also interacted with Edgar Tete, who is actually chairperson of that union. So we're drawing the curtains on that conversation. But up next, after the break, we'll be spending some time with former president of the Association of Ghana Industries, that is the AGI, Dr. Prince Kofi Klugeson. We'll be talking about what options are on the table, are available to industry players during these torrid economic times. Do stay.